So anybody who is just logging on now, it is Brittany with Scott LaRue Marketing, and we are going to be going over the website platform today. So this is our website 201 class, which means that we are going to be going over how to add some custom information to your command website. This is going to include the testimonial capture page where clients can leave you reviews right on your website. It's also going to be the testimonial feature page, which is where those testimonials are going to be displayed. We're also going to be adding a mortgage calculator, a school search widget, and a custom content page. So I'm going to be getting all of that information added today and show you guys how to get that added to your websites as well. Everything that we are doing is going to be through our command portal. So I have that pulled up now. If you are not yet logged in, just go to agent.kw.com. Again, that's agent.kw.com, and that will allow you to log into command. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Once we are in the command platform, the first thing I generally try to go over is the marketing profile, just to make sure that that is set up properly for everyone, as the marketing platform or the marketing profile is essentially your ground zero for marketing. So all of your updates, your name, your contact information, everything that you run through command is actually going to pull your information from there. So we want to make sure that that is as up to date as possible. So to check this, we're going to go ahead and click on our names in the top right-hand corner. And then we're going to go ahead and select settings on that drop-down list. And this might be familiar to some of you. You may have come in here and made changes previously. And once that settings section loads, you'll notice that you now have additional options on the left-hand side. We're going to expand the connect settings, and then we have marketing profile is nestled right underneath that. Once we click on that marketing profile, your screen should look relatively similar to mine, starting with your headshot, your team logo. If you guys don't have a headshot yet, completely fine. That can be added in at any point. So if you guys do happen to get one down the line, you guys can come in here and plug that in. It does need to be cropped to be a perfect square. That is one thing I do want to notate. If your headshot is not cropped to be a perfect square, you'll notice that it does look a little bit distorted. Once you crop it, it will fit beautifully in that circle. If your headshot is showing distorted here, it means that it's showing distorted on all of your marketing platforms. So correcting that and cropping it to be a perfect square will adjust that for you. For your logo is actually a little bit different. You'll notice that it looks a little bit wonky here. However, it is smart enough to actually correct itself on all of your marketing platforms. It is only your headshot that needs to be cropped to be a square. Both your team logo and your market center logo, which will be a little bit lower, those can both be added as is, and they will actually show up larger with they will show up larger on your marketing with less around the edges. So in other words, if she had cropped this to be a square, it is going to show up very small on that website platform. However, where her logo is naturally a rectangle, she added it as such, and it shows up beautifully on her website. So that's kind of one of those things with both of those logos. It may look a little funny here, but it will show up correctly on all of your platforms for you. Underneath that, we have details. Most of this will be pretty straightforward. We just want to make sure that everything looks correct and it's within compliance for your state and board. So if you guys maybe go by a nickname and your board requires your legal name to be on everything, you may want to make sure that that is updated here. Again, this is kind of like your ground zero for marketing. So everything that you guys plug in here is automatically going to be added to your marketing through command. So this means your smart plans, your email campaigns, your mobile app, your website, all of these platforms are going to pull directly from your marketing profile. So if you guys do need to make tweaks to your name, make sure you swap that. We also have a license number location. This is a great way for you guys to add your license number. And if you're also dual licensed, you can add both states and licenses. If you guys are seeing a discrepancy on your mobile app or any marketing with your license number, and it's either not showing up correctly, but it's populating correctly here, that means that the specific location that you're seeing the discrepancy on actually pulls from Winmore. So if you guys are seeing the wrong license number on anything, touch base with your Market Center administrator, commonly your MCA. They will be able to update Winmore for you with the correct license number. Especially if you're a newer agent, they may have just been waiting on that information. You also have your team name. If you're not associated with the team, we recommend that you put something there, as it's just going to give you guys a little bit more personalization on your website. So this can be something like your name, realtor, like if your name was John Smith, realtor with Keller Williams, or anything along those lines is completely fine. We've also seen agents put catchphrases here, which is also completely fine. Underneath that, we have our job title and designations. You'll want to make sure that those are plugged in. We also have our affiliations. You now have access to select your affiliations, so you guys can select that as well. And if you guys are not affiliated, you can essentially just leave it as is. You'll also notice that as you kind of start selecting active duty, it should now give you an option that allows you to select the branch as well, which is pretty cool. This is a new update that seems to be trickling out. Underneath that, we have our bio. This, you are going to want to make sure it is populating in this text box exactly how you want it to show on all of your marketing. So you'll notice that Lori has those line breaks in between paragraphs. She's hit enter to make sure that there's a gap. If you are looking to have your bio show up like that on your marketing, that is how you want it to appear in this text box. Underneath that, we have phone numbers starting with mobile and office. You'll notice that everything with the red asterisk is going to be required, so we want to make sure we have information there. You'll also notice that the phone numbers on this section are not formatted. Basically, they have no dashes, they have no periods, no parentheses, which is completely fine. The way that these are actually going to syndicate out to all of your marketing, Command is going to format them for you. And the beauty of that is it's also going to make them clickable from mobile devices. So if somebody comes across your website on their phone, they'll be able to call you, which again, pretty cool feature. So you do not have to add any formatting to these. You can just type in the number. Then we have our email and our website. For the email address, this is going to be whichever email you want to be corresponding with your clients through. It does not have to be your KW email. It would essentially be whatever email you plan on using for your real estate business. But you do want to make sure that that is spelled correctly and added in here, because again, this is how your clients are going to get in touch with you. Then we have our website. So a couple of quick things for the actual website URL, just in case. If you guys are using the command website, which is what we're going to be diving into shortly, you do want to make sure that you have HTTPS at the beginning. It is not HTTP, it is HTTPS, // This is going to be for all of the URLs that end in .kw.com. If your URL ends in .kw.com, it means that you are using the command platform. That's the command website. Another thing with any URL that ends in the .kw.com, they are not compatible with www. So if you have this set up currently and you either have HTTPS, www. Or if maybe you're missing that HTTPS, add that in. It essentially, this URL right here is going to pull up an error message with that www. It's going to pull up a privacy message when you try to go to it. So make sure that you do remove that. And then again, just a reminder, make sure that you have that HTTPS added. What that's going to do is it's going to make your website clickable. So in other words, if anybody comes across your profile, your mobile app, if they come across you on the KW site or your office website, it's going to make your website clickable for them so they don't have to copy and paste it in a new browser. So that's definitely helpful for your clients. Scroll down a little bit more. For our brokerage information, you'll notice that the logo, again, looks a little bit funny here. However, it will correct itself on all of your marketing, so don't panic. If you guys do not have your Market Center logo on file, shoot us an email. We can see if we have one for you. We can also touch base with the office to make sure that we get our records updated. And then on our right-hand side, we have our basic brokerage information. This is something that I definitely recommend checking, either if you were a transfer agent, maybe you just transferred offices, Or maybe you work with a smaller branch that is maybe associated with a larger Keller Williams office. If you work with something called a business center, you would want to make sure that that is the address on your marketing. So if this address looks unfamiliar or if it just doesn't make sense, definitely make sure that that gets updated. You'll also want to make sure that this is your office address. Do not put your personal address here. Again, this is actually going to show up not only on your website, but every piece of marketing that you send out through command will have this on it. So we definitely want to make sure that it is the office address. Underneath that, we have some compliance options. Most of these will not apply to everyone. So in other words, there are some offices that will require specific legal footer text on all of the marketing. This is generally provided by the board. If you guys are with a board or a state that does require that, you can copy and paste that text in here. However, there is no required text other than that. The commonly added information that we see in here is each Keller Williams office is independently owned and operated. If you have that in here, you can delete it. It's actually a standard. So that's already going to show up on every piece of marketing that you send out. Keller Williams International adds it automatically. So by you adding it in here manually, it actually duplicates it. So if you guys have something specific you need to put there, like Lori put it, that she's licensed in 2 states, that's completely fine. Or if there is specific verbiage that your office wants added there, you guys can plug that in as well. We also have our legal footer links, Texas agents. If I have anybody from Texas on, you guys do need to have your information about brokerage services and your CPN notices added to everything. This is where those would go. We've also seen agents take this area and add some information about COVID protocols or maybe how open houses are changing or anything along those lines. Feel free to add that in as well. Anything you guys need to add as a footer. We've also seen agents add like vendors or anything like that. You can also plug those in. It gives you the option to add the text and then the URL. Then we have our legal footer images. These are essentially small icons that are going to show up at the bottom of, again, all of your marketing, which is kind of cool. So if you guys do have something specific that you need to have added, you can plug that in here. I do know that the state of Maine requires the IDX, the Maine IDX logo, as well as the equal housing logo. So those are generally added for any agents licensed in the state of Maine. But if you guys also have designation logos that you want to add, maybe you obtained something, you went through bold, anything along those lines, you can also add those in. It's a great way to get those logos added to your marketing. Underneath that, we have our social platforms. So our social media URLs, 2 things that I want to mention for these. The first one being, you'll notice that the entire URL was added. In order for these to populate on your marketing correctly, you do need to add the entire URL, not just your handle. So if you currently only have your handle, so for example, if you only had, say, Lori Godfrey instead of the full facebook.com, you would want to make sure that that gets updated. If you're unsure how to obtain these URLs, it's very, very simple. If you go to the profile that you're looking to share and you just copy the URL right in the browser, you can then paste it in here. That's all you need to do. And by default, it will essentially share that page that you are on. So you'll want to make sure that you're on your business page. That's the second thing. For your social media platforms, I highly recommend making sure that you are using business pages. It's not required. I just recommend it because, again, this is going to go on all of your marketing. So making sure that you are sharing something real estate adjacent is going to be extremely helpful. For Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, business pages are definitely recommended. For YouTube, as long as you're gearing that towards real estate, I would say it's completely fine. You can add your channel URL there. And then LinkedIn, really any profile you guys have on LinkedIn is going to be business affiliated. So your URL can just be shared there. But if you guys have any questions on these, definitely let us know and we can take a look. Last but not least, we have Google Analytics. Google Analytics is a fantastic system to set up. This is actually going to track the traffic on your command website. I did add a tip video to the notes that I shared with the class, and I'll drop that in the chat again at the end. And anybody watching the recording, right underneath the recording, there is a Google Doc shared right in the bio for this video that has all of the things that we're going over today, as well as some additional tip videos, including the one for Google Analytics, just in case you guys need it. If you guys did make any tweaks, dotted an I, crossed a T, make sure that you are clicking save all the way down at the bottom. And then once we click save, you'll just get a little pop-up letting you know that everything was updated. And then we can X out of that. Last but not least, before we dive into the website platform itself, once you guys click save, on the top right, you're going to see that little toggle switch. Use my information to brand my agent site. You want to make sure this has a green bubble. If you're seeing a gray bubble, it means that all of that information you just took the time to put together is not being shared with command. So you do want to make sure that this is toggled over to being that green bubble, and then it will essentially share all of this out. If you did previously have a gray bubble and you just turned this on, your mobile app takes 72 hours to brand itself. So don't panic if you start kind of messing around with anything later on today. It does take the full 72 hours for this to essentially trigger once you have turned that on. Once you guys have confirmed that is good to go, we're going to go ahead and go into the consumer section. So on the left-hand side, we have all of these icons. Consumer is the last button. And if you guys ever question which button is which, this white KW and the red square will label everything for you just to make things a little bit easier. We're going to go ahead and click on consumer. For the consumer icon, I generally have a couple of people each class that can't see it. That's usually because you're zoomed in a little bit too much. If you try zooming out a tiny bit, it will then appear for you. But it is the absolute last icon. So sometimes if you're zoomed in or just on a smaller screen, a tablet, a laptop, it cuts it off. Once we're on this page, your screen should look relatively similar to mine. You may have already started adding some custom pages, which is, again, completely fine and good for you. However, if you guys are seeing a page that doesn't have a live URL here, or if you don't have any pages added at all, if you don't have about me, about us, contact us, if you're not seeing any of those pages, it generally means that your command website isn't set up yet, which means that you may want to take a look at our Command 101 or our Website 101 class first. That way your website is live. Because again, a lot of the pages that we're going over today, you can create them, but you won't be able to add them to your website until your command website is actually launched. So once you guys have confirmed, you guys are seeing that live URL. This is pretty much the sign. So if you guys are seeing that there's a clickable link right here, that generally means that your website is up and running. Once we have that there, the last thing I just want to mention before we start adding pages, the way that I tend to do this class, just to make it a little bit easier on you guys, I go through adding all of the pages first, and then we make them live all together rather than jumping around. It causes a little bit less confusion. So just so you guys kind of have a heads up, once we get through the first page, it will make a lot more sense. But the way that I just do it is we are going to be creating all of the pages. There are going to be 5 pages that we create and make live today, 4 of which we'll start with. And then the last page we'll actually create at the end when we add a testimonial to our website. So in order to get started with this, all we're going to do is click on create a new page in the top right-hand corner. And once this pops up, you want to make sure that for today's class, we are always selecting on my agent site. So on my agent site is going to be creating a page that we can automatically make live on our command website. Landing pages, which is another option, that is essentially setting up a standalone page. So if that's something that you're interested in doing down the line, we do have an entire class on it as well. It's fantastic. But everything that you want populating on your actual command website will always be this first option. So we'll make sure that is selected. And then we're just going to click on create page. Once you guys have this page open, what I generally recommend doing is giving your page a label. So in other words, on the top left-hand corner, we have our title. Anytime you guys are creating a page, whether it's just today, whether you guys are creating a custom page down the line, make sure that you're giving it some type of name, because when you go to make it live, it's going to make it that much easier. You'll know which page it is. So for this one, I'm going to start today with our Testimonial Capture page. So I'm just going to label it exactly that. So once I've typed in my page title, on the right-hand side, I'm just going to go over what all of this means. So we have some widgets available. In order for you guys to add a page to your website and create a page, it does need to have a widget added to it. So you'll notice here, we have a team widget, which essentially only agents that are recognized as a team through their office, meaning that they've been set up as a team, will use this page. Anybody who is not on a team, when you go to add it, you're going to get a bunch of errors because you essentially don't have access to use it. So don't panic. But if you are set up as a team, this will pull your information from each person's marketing profile that is on your team and make a nice, pretty kind of like a layout with everybody on the team, and also provide their contact information, their headshot. It's a great way just to kind of show people on your team. It's a meet the team widget. Then we have our agent profile, which is exactly the same thing, except for an individual agent. So this is essentially one of the widgets that we're going to be using today. Not right now, but for one of the other pages, we'll be using this one. This is where you guys can add your bio. So this is also a great thing to know it exists if you guys are on a spouse team, or maybe you're just working with one other person. So you may want your own bio pages on your website. So in other words, if you're working with a spouse, one spouse can have their own bio page, and then you can come back in here, create it again, and add the second spouse's information, headshot, contact information, bio. Pretty cool idea. So you guys do have access to do that as well. We also have our contact form, which is pretty straightforward. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is a contact form. It's a lead capture form. One thing I will say is if you guys are adding the contact form, it is a little bit redundant. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at your command website yet, you'll notice that Interested Let's Talk is kind of a lead capture platform that will show up on every single page. It shows up at the bottom. It is a default. It pulls from a template. It will automatically be there on every single live page. So using the contact form itself ends up being a little bit redundant because you have a contact form on top of a contact form. So we tend to avoid using that widget. We also have our Testimonials Carousel and our Testimonials list. Testimonials Carousel is going to allow you to add up to 4 testimonials, and it does exactly what it sounds like. It essentially allows them to populate as a carousel. So they just kind of filter through horizontally. Then we have our testimonials list. This allows up to, I believe now it's 11 testimonials that you guys can add to your website. Anything more than that, it can still be captured, but it will not allow you to add it without removing another testimonial. So as of right now, you are capped at populating 10 on your website. And again, it's exactly what it sounds like. It just puts them in a nice organized list. This is the one that we'll be using later. We also have our company profile. If you guys set up your original website, the company profile that you guys did through that class or through that platform, it's exactly the same. This is just the widget, so you guys can essentially duplicate that page and that layout. It's a completely customizable form. It is a great thing to know that it exists. You guys can also come in here and just kind of drag and drop widgets and play around with them as well. I definitely recommend that so you can see what type of access you guys have. Then we have our testimonial capture form. This is the one that we're going to be using today and right now. But last but not least, we also have our download my app section. So this is essentially just a widget that allows you guys to promote your app, your consumer facing app, right on your website. We will be using this down the line. This is actually the one that we'll be using for the mortgage calculator. So we'll kind of be dabbling with all of these today. Just wanted to give you guys a brief overview of what their intentions are. So to start for this page, we're going to go ahead and grab our testimonial capture form. And all I'm going to do is click it, drag it over to my blank space on the left-hand side and drop it. And it should look exactly like mine. You should have that gray overlay. That's completely fine. We haven't configured anything yet. And once you guys have done that, dragged and dropped, all we're going to do is click on Configure Widgets all the way down at the bottom. Once we click on Configure Widget, we're going to select the widget that we are configuring. And then we get to start plugging in our information. So this is essentially the template on the right-hand side. This is going to allow us to plug in all of our custom information, our name, our headline, everything. As far as edits go, when you are working with a widget specifically, all of your edits are going to be done on this right-hand section right here. The left-hand side is just a preview. So just kind of keep that in mind. This is specifically for when you are working with a widget. All of your edits will be done here. If you start trying to drag and drop when you're working with a widget, you'll notice that it gets very wonky very quickly. It essentially rearranges stuff, it locks stuff in, and generally the page has to be completely recreated. So I just wanted to make that note just in case you guys decide to come in here later and play around with anything, which again, I highly recommend. So for your testimonial capture, what I generally do for our team name, if you guys are associated with a name or a team name, you guys can plug that in here. If you're not, you would just put your name. So I'm just going to put Lori Godfrey. Then we have our headline. Again, this can be whatever you guys want. I'm going to plug in what we generally use, but again, you guys can use, if there's something else that you would rather have here, by all means, plug in whatever you'd like. We generally label this leave a review. So I'm going to put that in here. Underneath that, we have our description. I'm going to leave this as is. You'll notice it just says, thank you for being a valued client. And it has that little blurb. That is what's going to populate right here. If you have something that you would rather have there, again, by all means, you can swap it out. Then we have our review headline. How would you rate your experience? I'm going to leave that as well. Again, if you guys want to tweak that, you can. You have up to 80 characters for that section. And then our review placeholder, which I usually have to zoom out a little bit just so you guys can see the full thing. So I apologize, everything got smaller. But for your review placeholder, this is going to be the text that shows up right in that review box. So again, this is just an idea as to what you're looking for from your client. So if you guys have something specific you want to add in there, you can type right over this. You do have 400 characters for this section. But if you guys want to leave it as is, I'm going to, you can also leave it as is. Keep in mind, you can also come in here later and tweak anything. Nothing that we do today is set in stone. So once you guys have had your name, your headline, and if you guys made any edits, all we're going to do is click on our save and apply all the way down on the bottom right. And this is just going to implement our updates. I'm going to zoom back in a little bit. Out of that so you guys can see everything. So I know it looks a little bit funny right here. Don't panic about that. That's completely normal. The only thing you really want to be checking is making sure that A, your name is now populating. Like for example, you'll notice right here, it said, how would you rate your experience with Lori Godfrey? It's actually implementing your name. Would you recommend Lori Godfrey? And we also have our headline now showing up right at the top. So this is good to go. Once you guys confirm that is populating correctly for you, all we're going to do is click on these save changes on the top right. And then this is where it gets a little bit different. If you guys were setting up a page and it was essentially a one and done page, you were just adding one page, you would generally click yes. But because of how we're going to structure the class, we're essentially going to be creating all of the pages first, then making them live together. We're going to be clicking no for all of the pages that we're doing today. So for now, we're going to click on no, and then we'll go back and make this page live at the end, just so it's less jumping around for you guys. And if you guys did already click yes, don't panic. Once you actually click yes, just click back on consumer and you'll be back right where we are. Once we're back on this page, you'll notice that it did add our testimonial capture. You'll also notice that it's not live yet. So this is another thing I just want to mention before adding that next page. Once you guys start adding pages, or if you guys start playing around with pages, adding some custom content, when you see the gray eyeball, it means that it is not yet active on your website. So it essentially means the page is there, it's created, you have access to add it to your website, but it's not yet live. So this is great to know if you guys are making edits to pages and maybe you want to finalize those edits before adding it. That's completely doable. So that's just a way for you guys to tell the difference. If you hover over a teal eyeball, you'll notice it's not only clickable, but you'll also notice that we no longer have that error message saying that it's not on there. So teal eyeballs, live on your website, gray eyeballs, not live on your website, just a created page. In regards to making edits, anything you guys need to make edits to, your edit button is right under those 3 buttons, and it will bring you right back to where we just were, just in case. Once you guys are back here, just want to give you guys a second. I know a couple of people did click yes. Once you guys are back here, we're going to go ahead and add our next page. So I'm going to go ahead and click on our create page again. This is going to get a little bit redundant, so I apologize. And then we have our on my agent site and create page. For this one, we are going to jump over to a mortgage calculator. So what I generally do is I get my page prepped for the mortgage calculator because it is a code that we will be pasting in. We're going to get our page prepped and then we'll grab that code. So you guys can do this one of 2 ways. Keep in mind the notes page that I shared with you originally, the code is on that page. I'm also going to share with you guys the URL that I'm pulling it from specifically, just so you guys, again, have both options, whichever one's easier for you. But we're going to start by getting this prepped. So I'm going to get this labeled. And no one will ever see these names. This is more so for you guys as you go to make edits, or say you decide that you want to add a new page. Maybe you have a different mortgage calculator or a revised one that you want to add down the line. You would essentially create that page as maybe updated mortgage calculator. And then you'll know when you go to make pages live, which one is which. So just kind of labeling it as whatever will make most sense to you is completely fine. Once you guys have that title, we're going to go ahead and we're going to drag and drop our mobile app widget. So this is our bottom right, and we're just going to drag and drop that onto our free space. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and expand our content blocks. And you're going to see that you have both an image and text. And we're going to be diving into these a little bit more on the other page that we'll be doing towards the end of class. You guys do have access to add an image. You also have access to add text. One recommendation that I will make is, and this is something that we'll be going over, text is usually the best route because you can actually copy and paste images via a Word document, and it will keep all of the formatting, all of the sizing for you, which again, pretty cool trick. And if you guys ever add images, you do have to manually size them, center them, which is a little bit more intense when it comes to adding custom content. So, but don't worry, we'll be diving into that as well. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. But for today, we're going to use the text block in order to get that code for that mortgage calculator added. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it over to my blank space, but I want to make sure it's going to show up above my mobile app. So you'll notice I have that green line above my mobile app widget. You want to make sure that's where it's populating. If you're hovering over and you have the green line underneath, it means that you're not in the right location. So make sure that you are at the top, and then you'll drop it. Once you guys have that text box there, we can go ahead and grab that code. So I'm just going to pull this up on a separate tab and then I'll share it with you guys. So let's drop this in the chat for you. And you guys can also just grab the code from the notes if that's easier for you. I just figured I would give you guys the source as well, just in case you need it, or if you want to bookmark it if somebody else may need it. So this is the mortgage calculator that we use. If you guys scroll down a tiny bit, you're going to see where step 2, copy your source code. All we're going to do is click copy to clipboard. For a second, it's going to flash copied, and that just means that you've copied the entire code. And this is essentially what it's going to look like as well. It's fully interactive, pretty cool. It has all the information there for you guys. Once we have it copied, we'll go right back to command. And then this is where I'm going to go step by step just to make sure. So the first thing we're going to do is I double click in order to make sure that my essentially my placeholder text is highlighted. Once my placeholder text is highlighted, I'm going to right click and paste. You guys can use a shortcut if you'd like. I'm just right clicking and pasting just in case. Once I've pasted that in, you're noticing it's not actually showing up yet. So in order to push this code through, all we're going to do is highlight it. So I'm just dragging my mouse over it to highlight all of that text. And then we're going to click on this little link button. And you'll notice when you hover over it, it should say link. Once we click on that, I'm just going to click anywhere outside of this section just to kind of make sure that it refreshes itself. You'll notice you get the green ribbon. And now we have our mortgage calculator. Let me scroll down. It shows everything for you guys. Once you guys have it so it's showing up like my screen, we can go ahead and click on our Save Changes on the top right. And then we're just going to go ahead and click on No. And now we have our mortgage calculator added. And again, don't panic if you guys are just following along to figure out the basics and you're going to go back and do this later. All of the notes on that 201 sheet, and I'll actually share it again really quick, just so you guys have it. I know some people have logged on since then. I'm just going to drop it in the chat once more. If you guys bookmark this, just in case you ever need it, it breaks everything down. So there are step-by-step instructions just in case. We're going to go ahead and add another page, pretty much very similar to what we just did right now. We're going to be adding the school search page. This is a pretty cool widget. So it's actually going to allow you guys to add a school search on your website. So clients can then locate local schools based on neighborhood. They can also change the location, which is really cool. So if you happen to be practicing real estate, maybe in Florida, but you have a referral client out of Texas or out of Massachusetts or wherever, they can also manipulate it so they can pull schools in their area. So it's not set in stone for your location only. So I like this widget. So we're going to go ahead and click on Create a New Page once more. We're going to leave our On My Agent site selected and create our page. And then again, we want to give this a name. So I'm just going to call it School Search. Once we have that added, we're actually going to use the agent profile widget today. So this is going to be the one that we're going to embed that code into. One thing I do want to mention, just so you guys can see why we are adding widgets to every single page that we're using. For example, our mortgage calculator, we just use that mobile app widget. Notice on the top, our Save Changes is not clickable. If I hover over that, it says to publish this page, click the Configure Widgets button and fill in all of the required fields. The pages physically will not allow you to save them unless a widget is being used. A lot of these widgets can be manipulated to have whatever information you'd like. However, when you're adding a completely custom page, or maybe if you guys are adding an embedded page, maybe you have a URL or a blog or something like that that you're adding, downloading the mobile app, plugging that in at the bottom will allow you guys to bypass that. So it'll allow you guys to save everything. That's generally my recommendation for that. Just wanted to throw that in there. I just got a question in regards to why we were still adding widgets. So wanted to make sure we notated that for you guys. For this one, we're going to use our agent profile. So same thing as before, we're just going to drag and drop that right to our blank space. You'll notice that all of your information from your marketing profile pulls over to this. Don't worry, we are going to tweak this. So it's not going to have your bio or any of that information. We're going to manipulate this to be a school search. So once you guys have dragged and dropped that, it should look pretty similar to mine. We're going to go ahead and click on Configure Widgets all the way down at the bottom right. And then we have our agent profile. We're going to click on that, and that will allow us to edit this widget. Now from here, you guys can get as creative as you would like. I've seen some teams, they plug in their team logo instead of a headshot. If you don't have a team logo, you can leave your headshot. I've seen the KW logo used. I've seen stock images used of like a pencil and paper for school. Whatever you guys want, you can use. I'm going to leave it as her headshot, but you guys can swap this out later if there's something else that you would rather use for this page. Completely fine. For our page title, I'm going to go ahead and put local school search. And you guys can call it whatever you'd like, but that's essentially what it is. It's going to allow them to search for schools locally. For role and company, you guys can either put a space and leave it blank, or you can plug something in. I'm just going to put search for schools in your area. For our bio title, I'm just going to put a space in order to bypass it. That's essentially removing this right here. We're going to be centering the widget. So if you guys type something here, it sometimes ends up looking a little bit wonky because it's not centered. So a space will just allow you guys to bypass it because as you can see, we have that red asterisk, which means it is required. It needs to have at least one character. Then for our bio, all I'm going to do is select all. So you guys can either drag and drop your mouse down, select everything, and we're just going to delete it. And in order to confirm that everything is deleted, you guys should see enter agent bio ... in gray. If you're not seeing enter agent bio ... in gray, it means that you still have something in here. So you want to make sure that you're dragging and deleting and making sure that this is completely empty. We're going to leave our contact information. I have to zoom out a tiny bit so you guys can see it. We're going to leave our contact information, phone number, email. We're going to leave that as is. If you want to double check that that is correct, that's definitely recommended, but we're going to leave that as it is currently. So once we have deleted our bio, now we can go ahead and grab our school code. So I'm going to pull up my mortgage calculator and I'll pull up the new page for you guys and I'll drop this in the chat just so you guys have it. This one, you guys will need to go to the physical URL. This is notated in the notes as well if you guys need it later, but I did just drop it in the chat just in case. But you'll notice that once this page loads, this is where we're going to add the information that we want to populate on our websites. So we can start by either plugging in an address, a zip code, a city, and a state. So I'm going to go ahead and just put in a city and state, and I'm just going to pull up Sarasota. And once I type in my city and state and just click anywhere outside of it, you'll notice that my little preview, it refreshes and it starts pulling up schools in that area. So if you guys are in a quiet area, you may want to do a local city. If you guys are in, like if you're covering multiple areas, you can create multiple of these, whatever works for you. But keep in mind, they can also tweak how this actually, or where this actually pulls from. They can zoom in and out and reselect areas. So that's completely fine as well. But once we have our city and state or zip code or whatever information you guys opted to add, you should see your map update. Once that's done, we're just going to go ahead and enter our email address and our website URL. For Lori, I can't remember her, so I'm going to put my email in really quick. So you're just going to put in whatever email address. And then for website, hers is so I'm just adding in her command website URL. And then I have email. I cannot remember her email off the top of my head. And then we're just going to agree to the terms of service. And once you guys have your location, your email, your website, your terms of service, you'll notice that Get Widget Code is now clickable. We're just going to go ahead and click that. And it's going to give you this gigantic code. I'm just going to select all of it, and we're just going to copy it. You can right click and copy, or you guys can use shortcuts, won't make a difference. And once you guys have that copied, we're going to go back to command where our prepped page is waiting. And in that bio, we're going to start by doing the greater than, less than symbol. And I'm just going to do center and close it. I've heard these called many things, greater than, less than, carrots, whatever you guys want to call them. We need it set up exactly like that. What this is going to do is it's going to center the widget for you. What that means is no matter what size screen your client is looking at this page on, it's automatically going to center, because you'll notice if you don't do that, what ends up happening is it left aligns all the time. So if someone's on a bigger screen, it looks a little funny. It automatically ends up trying to throw itself at the left side of the page. So this will just center it for us. Then I'm going to paste my code. And then right at the end, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Type in center with my carrots or greater than, less than. And then we're just going to do save and apply. And then that's going to plug in all of that information that we just put together. Again, you guys can ignore this line if you guys see it too. It seems to be a Firefox thing, but it doesn't show up on your live website. So you'll notice that it changed our title. It changed our role. You'll notice that this is perfectly centered. Otherwise, what ends up happening is it shows up like right here. It's just left aligned. So that will clean it up a little bit. Our contact information showing, and we are good to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Save Changes on the top right. We're going to click No once more. And you'll see that's now added to our pages. And now the last one, if you guys don't have custom content, don't panic. I'm just going to show you guys how to do this from a Word document, just so you have it. Again, this is not mandatory, so don't panic. I'm just going to show you guys how to actually go through the process. So I'm going to pull up my page. We'll X out of that. I'm going to pull up my page with, did I not pull it over here? I may not have. Grab it from my bookmarks. So this is just a Google Sheets. So if you guys don't have access to Word, maybe you don't have Word on your computer, maybe you are a Mac user, or you just don't have access to Word, no problem. Google Sheets will do the exact same thing. You'll notice that I have my sold properties. We have it bolded. It's a little bit bigger. We can get crazy with the font. We can edit this as intricately as we want. We can make this 50, whatever you guys want. You can essentially edit it on this type of file. You'll also notice that I have images. These are all centered as well. I've placed them exactly where I want them to show up. I have the information that I want to show up. This is for a sold properties page, but keep in mind, this can be any content. So all I've done is essentially put information on a Word document. So again, this would be your information. I just want to show you guys how to get this added. So this can be a Word document or a Google Sheets page. So if you guys have team information, maybe you have some vendors, maybe you have a flyer, maybe you have an event coming up, or anything along those lines that is custom information that essentially wouldn't be pulled to a widget, this is a fantastic way for you guys to add it. So again, I just have my information pulling here, and I'm going to go ahead back to command and get my website page prepped, and then I can copy and paste that content over. I'm going to show you guys how easy this is. So I'm on this page. I'm going to go ahead and click on my create a new page again. And I have on my site, create. And then for this one, I'm just going to call it custom page. And then when it comes to our widgets, keep in mind, you do need to have a widget added. So I'm going to go ahead and use my download my app again, just like our mortgage calculator. So I'm going to drop that. And then underneath that, we have our content blocks, and I'm going to be using my text option. So all I'm going to do is drag and drop my text so it's above my mobile app again. Anytime you guys are adding custom content or text, always make sure it's above the widget. What that means is when the page is actually live and populating, all of your content that you want your clients to see, that's going to allow it to populate first. So we want to make sure that's there. And now I can go back to my custom content. All I'm going to do is copy all of it. So I have all of it selected. I can right click and copy. I can do Control C or Command C or whatever computer you guys are on. You just need to get this copied. And then I'll go back to my page. I'm going to do the exact same thing I did for my mortgage calculator, in the sense that I'm going to highlight my placeholder text. And then I'm just going to right click and paste this right over it. That was pretty easy. So it essentially brings all of your stuff over. As far as the font goes, it looks like it's copying my previous font. But as far as anything goes, your formatting, if you guys have tons of pictures, if you guys have sold listings, this is a great way for you guys to add your already sold listings. If you haven't noticed, some of the marketing is limited once a listing is no longer active. So if a listing goes under contract, or if it was sold, anything along those lines, it does kind of get removed from some of your marketing options. This is kind of a workaround to get that information added. So if you guys have sold listings, or again, an event, we have a lot of events coming up with the holidays right there. If you guys are doing like a giveaway, we've seen this used for like pie giveaways or holidays, or people are doing toy drives, things like that. This allows you guys to add completely customized information to your website. And all you need to do is add it into a Word document. And working with a Word document, it's pretty standard. You guys can tweak text, you guys can center things, you guys can add charts, you guys can add whatever you'd like, and it will all copy over just by copying and pasting it into a text box. So this is a great way to just kind of get that information added. So I wanted to go over that with you guys really quickly. I am going to go ahead and save this page. That way we can see it live as well. I'll click on no once more. We also have a tip video in the notes, just in case you guys do need that again. It does go over just kind of how to add custom content, how to manipulate it a little bit. If you guys have questions on that, it kind of dives into all of that for you. But last but not least, all we're going to start doing now is we're just going to get these pages made live. So once you guys are on your consumer page, and if you guys did refresh, just click consumer again, it will bring you right back here. And all we're going to do from here to get these 4 pages live is click on Site and App Settings. And once we click on Site and App Settings, all of our page edits are going to be done on the Agent Site Pages tab, which is the last tab. And you'll notice once you click on that, you should see your already active pages on your website. So we already have her about page. She has one about our brokerage and then a contact page. Now what we're going to start doing is we're just going to click on our ad page. Now you'll see this is why it's so important to give it a name, because if you guys did not name them, it's essentially showing up as that weird code. Now, because we have them labeled, we know exactly which page is which as we're making them live. So that's why it's so helpful. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of work our way up. So I'm going to start with my testimonial capture, and I'll just select that bubble and then continue. And then all of the information that I'm using is on the notes. So if you guys do need that in writing and you want to copy and paste it over, you can also do this later. So again, don't panic, you're not stuck. It is all notated on the notes just in case you guys need them. But for our page title, we have leave a review. And this is going to be the title of the page on your live website. So on that drop-down list, that is going to be what the page is called. That's where page title is going to pull from. We have our slug, which is going to be the tail end of that URL specifically. So in other words, this is a great thing to know for testimonial captures. If you guys maybe want to throw this on your email signature, maybe you want to create a QR code for open houses, whatever you like, this is a great way to get that out there just so you can start capturing some great reviews. So I'm going to go ahead and leave a review. For slugs, I generally recommend just leaving them all lowercase just because it looks nice and clean. You'll also notice that spaces and special characters are not allowed. So in order to avoid it looking merged and kind of being unable to see what it looks like or what it's supposed to say, using a dash as a space is generally the recommendation. So now if you wanted to share this specific page with someone, you can actually send them this URL right here, and it will bring them right to the review page. They'll still have access to your website, but that will bring them specifically to that page, which is great. Then for our SEO, I'm copying this from notes. Let us know about your experience working with, and then you would just type in your name. So I'm just going to type in Lori Godfrey. So let us know about your experience working with, and then your name or something along those lines. And then we're just going to click save. Next one, we're going to do add page again, and now mortgage calculator. Continue. And then same thing. So this can be whatever you guys would like. If you want to do mortgage calculator, if you want to do like how much can you spend, we've seen customized verbiage used for this, so that whatever you guys want to use, you can. I'm going to call it mortgage calculator. And then I'll do the same thing for our slug. And then for our SEO description, I'm going to copy this directly from the notes that were shared. So mortgage calculator to assist with the home buying process. And then we'll save that. And you just want to make sure that you get that green ribbon. If you don't see that, you can save it again, and you just want to make sure that populates. And that means it is essentially live on your website. We'll do add page again. I know this gets a little bit redundant, so I apologize. We have our school search, and then we'll do continue. And then for our school search, our SEO information, we have our title. Local school search is our page title. For our slug, in order to keep it generally short and sweet, I'm just going to put school search here. And then our description, I'm just going to put search for schools in your area. And then we'll just save it. And then we'll do add page once more. And I'm just going to do the custom page. You guys generally don't have this. I'm just going to throw it on the website just so you guys can see what it looks like. So once we have our pages added, the beauty of this section is you can also edit what order your pages are in. So for example, we have her about page first. She has another page about her brokerage, her contact. Generally, we recommend that you put your contact page last, specifically because it does not provide really value to your client. And also there is a contact widget on every single page of your website. So adding that last is generally the recommendation. I also usually put leave a review right above that, specifically because if they're kind of going through all of your content, I feel like it's more likely that they're going to want to leave a fantastic review because they're now seeing all of the content that you're providing them. That's just my logic. You guys can readjust it however you guys would like. But once I have those essentially tweaked the way that I want them to be, I do need to click save once more in order to lock those in. So now that we have that, all I'm going to do is go back to my consumer. So just click back on my consumer icon. And we want to check two things. First of all, we want to make sure that all of our eyeballs are now teal. That means that they are all live. And then here, I'm going to go ahead and just open my URL. So I just right clicked to open that up. And we're just going to go through those actual pages just so you guys can see what they look like. So I'm going to start with my mortgage calculator. And generally the first time you guys go to the live page, it does take a second to load. That is because it's the first time that someone's going to it. It will not happen every single time. It's generally the first time you guys go to it, takes a second to load, but don't panic. And then we have our local school search. You'll notice here. And then you'll also notice if I zoom in or out, it stays essentially centered. Sometimes if you don't add that center, for some reason, if you're looking on a larger screen or a smaller screen, it tends to try and left align the entire page. So just by adding that in, it just kind of assures that everything is added in properly for you, which is why I always add that in for that page. Then we have the custom page. I just want to show you guys how that shows up. You'll notice we have our images, our text, all of that's there. Then we have leave a review. So this is our review page here. This is where you guys can now come back and you can add in any reviews. Maybe you guys have a couple from a different platform. Maybe someone emailed you over something. If you have anything that you need to get added in here, you guys can come in here. You guys can add first name, last name, address, client since, make sure that you are selecting the 5 stars, especially if you're adding in reviews that are from other platforms. Maybe you have 1 or 2 on Facebook you want to add in here, or a Google review. This is a great way to kind of get them all under one section. And then you have your location for your review. And then yes, I would recommend is always automatically selected. But if you guys are adding those in, once you've filled out all of the information, it will allow you guys to preview it and then add it. Once you guys start adding reviews, you can then add it to a testimonials page, which I want to show you guys how to set up. And I'm going to show you guys what it looks like really quickly. When it comes time to actually add that in, we also have a tip video that goes over how to refresh that specifically. And it's all in the notes for you guys. So if you do need just the tip video, you guys can go back in there later and just kind of take a look at that. I want to say it's 6 minutes long, and it goes over how to add this page specifically. But I want to make sure you guys know what it looks like just before we end class. So I'm going to go over that really quick. So I'll go back to command. And if you guys had added this page previously, so in other words, if you guys had the testimonial capture page, maybe you had it added a couple months ago and then you deleted it or anything along those lines, those reviews will stay there. So you guys will still have access to add them. And then I also did get a question that came through. It said, can you add each page as a tab? Unfortunately, the only drop-down list is here. There's no way to actually add tabs across the top yet. That may be something in the future, but as of right now, it only pulls from the drop-down list. So going back to command, I'm going to show you guys how to add that testimonial review page really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and click on create a new page, and you guys can set this up and just leave it as a draft as well. So I'll go to create a new page. I have on my agent site and create page. So for this one, I'm just going to call them testimonials, just so I know the difference between my leave a review and my actual reviews. From here, just like we went over earlier, you do have two options. The carousel only allows you guys to promote 4, and then the list allows 11. So I'm going to use the list just because I feel like that will most likely be the one that you guys will need in order to get as many reviews on your website as possible. So I'm just going to drag and drop this over to my blank slate. And you'll see this is essentially how it's going to show up. It's exactly like it sounds. It's going to be a list of testimonials. From here, we're going to click on our configure widgets once more. And then our testimonial list. And it automatically brings us to that same idea, that editable section on our right-hand side. And we have access to add in a headline. So for the headline, again, you guys can put whatever fits whatever you guys want to have here. Generally, because we use leave a review for the actual capture page, I tend to put the headline as client reviews. You can also put testimonials if you'd like, or anything along those lines. And then for here, for your intro text, you do have 200 characters. You can either type something in, like they have a little kind of like a bio, like why work with this agent, little tidbit, or you guys can add something in here like see what our clients have to say. We've been in real estate for X amount of time, happy to help, eager to help you find your forever home. Anything along those lines is completely fine. And again, you guys can tweak this whenever you'd like. Nothing is set in stone. So if you guys have something that you want to maybe draft over the weekend or later on today and come back in and plug it in, completely fine, all doable. So I'm going to go ahead and just see what our clients have to say as a placeholder. From here, this is where you guys actually get to decide what shows up as far as the testimonial goes. So if you don't want the last initial, or you don't want client since to show up, that's completely fine. You would just uncheck them. Then we have our actual testimonials. You may not have any here yet, completely fine. It just means they haven't been added to the capture form. Once you do start adding testimonials, this is where they're going to populate. And you'll notice that it automatically checks them off for us and allows us to add that to our page. So once I have that done, I've unchecked what I don't want to populate, and I'm just going to click on save and apply. And you guys can also tweak this after the fact. So maybe this loads and you say, you know what, I do want this information there. You would just recheck it, save and apply again, and it's going to plug that in for you. And once you guys have that populating the way that you want, you have the testimonials selected that you actually want to populate on your website. All we're going to do is click on Save Changes. And then if you're leaving this as a draft, you'll click on No. Or if you want to add it now, you'll click on Yes. And I'm going to click on Yes just to show you guys what it will look like. So this is going to be making the page live. But if you don't want to make it live yet, if you don't have testimonials added yet, you can click on No. That's completely fine. So generally, when you guys create a new page, when you click on Yes, it brings us right where we need to be in order to make it live. So going forward, as you guys start creating your own pages, you start adding maybe some custom content. As you guys add those pages and they're finalized and you're good to go, that last save that you guys click and you click on Yes brings you right here. And you guys can now make this page live on your website. So I'm going to add one last page. We'll add our testimonials and we'll do reviews. See what our clients have to say. And you guys can also tweak any of these. So for example, generally for the page title, whatever you guys are using on that page. So for example, on that page, I called it client reviews, not that S. That's why I'm kind of matching everything. So I would recommend trying to stay consistent with titles. So if you guys are using, say, testimonials on your page, I would recommend maybe putting testimonials here and also as your slug. Just kind of keeping everything consistent, makes it a little bit cleaner. Then I'll go ahead and save this really quick. And then I want to drag and drop that right above my leave a review, just aesthetically. We'll save it. So now that will be live on my website. And I'll show you guys what that looks like really quick. And this is what it will populate as. And then as you guys start to add new testimonials, you guys can refresh this as frequently as you'd like. If you get some testimonials in today, if you add some in over the weekend, this page can be edited in real time. So as they're captured, all you would do is go into your command platform, click on consumer. And now if you guys did opt to create the page right now, you may already have it sitting here. All you need to do is click on your three dots and your edit button. And this will work for any page. So any page you want to make edits to, this is it. Three dots, edit. And it's going to bring you exactly to where we were originally. So keep in mind, this is a widget. So we always want to click on configure widgets. And then we'll select the one we're trying to edit, which will generally only be one unless you're stacking widgets on a page, which is also completely fine. And then here's all of our edits. So once you guys start adding testimonials to your website, you'll just keep checking them off and then it will add them in for you. You can also remove some. So for example, maybe you accidentally added one twice, you only want one of them. No problem. You would just refresh it. And then if you do make edits, you just click on that publish page button on the top. And once I click on yes this time, all it does is update it. So I don't even have to do anything because it was already a live page. So now if I refresh, it has my revisions. So as far as making edits to pages, they have made that a lot easier for you guys. Previously, you weren't allowed to make edits to pages, A, once they were live, or B, once they were even saved. Now you guys can make edits to not only pages that you've previously saved in the past, but you can even make live edits to pages that are already active on your website without having to go through swapping it out. So that's pretty cool. That's a newer update. So as you guys kind of make edits to them, as you guys make tweaks, just make sure that you're always proofing them before you step away. So in other words, if you guys are making adjustments to any of your pages, just refresh your website. You can do it just by clicking on the logo. That kind of gives it a quick refresh. And then you'll just notice anything that updates on here. Always check the pages just before you essentially log out of command. Make sure it looks correct. Make sure everything's spelled correctly. Because your website is really one of your greatest pieces of marketing as real estate agents. So if you guys have questions or if you guys are looking to add something specific and you're just unsure where to start, definitely let us know. We can always steer you in the right direction and make sure that you're taking a great route to get that added to your website. But also keep in mind, Word documents, Google Sheets, adding your custom information to that type of platform is going to just make your life a lot easier. And at the end of the day, any edits that you guys need to make, they will always be right here. So if you guys have additional houses that you want to add in, you'll just keep piggybacking off of this original document and it essentially saves everything. So if for some reason you accidentally delete a website page, we've seen it happen a lot. If you guys accidentally delete a page, here's your carbon copy. All you have to do is copy and paste and you're good to go. So if you guys need anything, have questions, or if anything comes up down the line, definitely let us know. Keep in mind the notes that we went over today are also hyperlinked at the bottom of the video. And I definitely recommend taking a look at this. Once everything is on our YouTube channel later today for people on the live class, I do swap out the classes. So today's class will be replacing the 512 class. So if you guys do bookmark this, you'll have access to it later on today as well. But I appreciate you guys coming to class. And if you guys need anything or if anything else comes up, definitely just let us know.